what will you learn today? I will share which products do you need for deep powder application. I will run through advantages and disadvantages of deep technology. Also tell you differences, because there are actually different systems and they seem like they all the same, but actually they're not. And also we will talk about how to remove deep powder from nails, and I will do the demo natural nail overlay, and also I will show you ombre and marble designs. Let's repeat the terms. This part, the pink part of the nail, is called nail bed, and the white part or the clear part that is not connected to our skin is called free edge. Okay, that's pretty simple, right? This line on the top is called cuticle line. This term is actually very important. We will be talking about it a lot today because I believe this is one of the biggest problems nail technicians are facing when working with deep powders. And also we have sidewalls, two sidewalls on both sides, which are these lines that we have on the sides. Usually everything is not as perfect as on this picture. You know, they can be like this, they can be uneven, but we still call them using the same name. There are two types of deep powder systems. They are air cured and light cured. And most of them, majority, I would say maybe 95%, are air cured. So you do not need something special to cure them. The air will do all the work. But still there are some brands that offer light cured. So for air cured, we will talk and I will demo this one in a few minutes. You only need all the products for the system and nothing else. For light cured, you will also need LED or UV lamp. Actually, among light cured, there is NSI Simplicity or Lishat. I'm not sure if I pronounced the name of this brand correctly. Well, if you just read it, it's Lishat. They have the system called GLE, so this one is also light cured. Let's talk about the products you need for deep overlay. So the first one you will need is called Prep, which is the same as dehydrator. And if you happen to have it already, let's say you are doing gel polish overlay or you have dehydrator from your acrylic or hard gel system, it will work. So honestly, you do not need any special prep most of the time. But make sure it is dehydrator, not primer. And if you're not sure, this is how you can check it. You just read the ingredients list and it should contain ethyl acetate or butyl acetate. Then you will need a base coat, and unlike dehydrator, this base coat should be the special base coat. Unfortunately, you cannot use the one that you use for gel or for acrylic or for regular nail polishes. It's a different one. So you need to have a base coat for deep systems. The most important ingredient, of course, is the deep powder itself. So besides all this product, we will need to use the powder. And speaking of powders, I get this question a lot, whether you can use powders from acrylic system or not. And some brands do offer such products. For example, Lechat, they have powders 3-in-1, and you can use them for design, for acrylic, and for dip. Maybe there are more brands out there that offer the same. And I tried, using them for acrylic and vice versa. So most of the time, you can use deep powder for acrylic, to do some design, but usually it doesn't work in the opposite way. I mean, if you have like tons of acrylic powders, they do not necessarily will work with your deep systems. But you have to try. But keep in mind, if it looks like it works, I mean, it's basically the powder, right? The same substance. It doesn't mean that it will have all the qualities, all the advantages of the system. So even though if the product looks the same, it doesn't mean they will work the same. We need to have Activator. Sometimes they come in a spray. Sometimes it's just, the bottle with a brush. And usually most brands just have the steps. So this is another one that we will need. Also, we will need the top coat, which once again, unfortunately, cannot be used from different system. When I was getting ready for this webinar, I tried many different top coats, including, you know, this air cured top coats, because they really feel and smell and seem like the same, but they're not. I mean, this one kind of worked, but the surface was not as shiny anyway, so unfortunately you cannot use any different top coat. And that's it among the major products that we will need. Also, you will need some additional accessories such as file, buffer, orange wood stick. Well, this yellow is probably not very comfortable to read, so there is top coat on the yellow line in case you cannot really see it. So that's all you need. That's not much. And we were talking about the air cured system. If you will use the light cured system, you will also need UV or LED light. What are advantages of this deep overlays? It's pretty easy to use, like honestly. It didn't you can actually watch my video if you're on YouTube. There is the video I tried gelish dip. It was my very first time I tried it right on the camera. It was pretty easy, like really nothing complicated there. For air systems, you don't need UV or LED lamp, and it's pretty fast because you don't need to waste time while you're curing it, which makes it faster. But among all advantages, there are always disadvantages. For example, if you are just getting started with dip systems, you need to have some colors for clients to choose from, right? You cannot just have red and white and that's it. You need to have some color selection. So you need to invest some money to get some good color selection. It takes longer to remove compared to, let's say, soak-off gel overlay. It usually takes more, like 20 minutes. And the third one is just my opinion. It is not suitable for some nail types. For example, I had a client, she had a very thin, overfiled, damaged nails, like super overfiled, and I would not recommend to use dip systems on those because just imagine they're overfiled, they're like super thin, they're all red, and that means they're very flexible. And deep overlay is pretty hard. It's almost like acrylic, you know, just like a rock. Now imagine it is on the top of this flexible, super thin, damaged nail plate. So what will happen? The nail plate will continue being flexible as the client, you know, start doing some things. And this hard overlay will not move together with this nail. And what will happen? It will start lifting mostly on the sides first. So I would not recommend it to this kind of nails, as well as for hyperhidrosis, like overly excessive sweat around the nails and on the nail plates. But once again, it's just my opinion. It doesn't mean that it will not work for like all system or for everybody, but I will not use dip system if I will have a client like that. I will use gloves that I try to use most of the time. Before you start any service, we need to prep the nails, and the preparation is pretty much the same as you prep it for gel overlay, for soak-off gel overlay. It's not quite different, but it's still important because if you will not clean this area from the skin, if you will not clean the cuticle that's spreading across the nail plate, you will definitely have lifting in these areas. So we just removed the old product, so we'll still have a little of the old base coat here remaining. So I will just slightly file it. I don't need to file it all the way down, and actually you can use the same technique. You see, if nothing is lifting, then what's the point of filing it all off? I will leave a little bit of old product right here. As you can see, it's not lifting, so that means it will not really bother us or anything. I will do a slight preparation right here with electric nail file. It is not necessary. If you do not use this technique, you can just skip this part, but I will just show you how we can do this. So I set it to 18,000 rotations per minute, and I will just slightly clean the skin. I will not do the full manicure, and actually we don't need it here. You see, only this part. So what I'm doing, I'm cleaning the cuticle that's spreading across the cuticle. You can also do it with a file, but with electric file it's just a bit faster. Then I will switch to the opposite direction and do the same on the other side. So preparation is a lot like any prep for any enhancement or overlay. Just remember that our goal is to clean the nail plate. It should be dry and clean. It should not have any skin on it, but do not overfile. Filing too much is also will not do any good. Now you need to shape the nails at this moment. And when shaping, also there's an important part that, you know, some nails, especially when they're thinner, after filing, they might feel sharp. So for better adhesion, you need to actually soften this line. You can do this with 180 grit file, or you can even use buffer and do it like that. This is also important, so the product will not chip from the free edge. And also I think it's pretty obvious that when you file a lot, then you will have this residue from the nail underneath, so do not forget to clean it as well, because if you won't, well, we're in trouble. We were shaping now a little bit, but if your client is like, no, do not touch my length, okay, I want to keep this length, it's fine, do not touch it, but you still need to slightly, you know, like update, clean the free edge, because all the dirt, all the oils, they are always under the nails. Okay, so we need to clean it as well. Now, that's all with filing. Make sure you clean the dust. And then we are going to use dehydrator. Since most of this nail, it has old product on it, it will not make too much sense right now at the moment for us. But I will still apply it because we have part of the natural nail right here. And do not forget, if there is some length on the nail, that you need to clean it underneath as well. So it's better to use some lint-free napkin. Well, we can actually turn it around so you will see. You see, there was something left over we didn't notice. So if you do this, you will not only make sure you cleaned all of those leftovers, but you also cleaned, like dehydrated this inside part. When you're using dark or neon colors, it is better to use clear color first, so it will not be like you're putting black right on the bare natural nail. But if you decided to use some pastel or light colors, it's okay. Right now we have some leftovers of the base coat. You see right here, so this is the nail, this is the old base coat. So once again, it's not necessary to use any clear product right now. So we can start like immediately working with the powder. Now I will take the base coat. When opening the base coat, it is very important to keep it clean. I don't have any examples anymore, but there was one base coat I couldn't open up because, you know, it was just stuck. So if you accidentally had some leftover on the jar, just clean it immediately. Okay, so different brands offer different techniques. Sometimes they explain the application that you need to apply to 2/3 of the nail, right? And then you do the cuticle work, which makes sense because it helps you to build the apex. Sometimes I follow this advice, sometimes I don't. It really depends on the nails. I believe you cannot really use the same technique all the time. Now let's take a look on the side, on the nail, on the curve. So you see her nails are pretty like standard curve. I mean, we would say ideal curve that we need. I mean, it's not flat, it's not ski jump, it's not bumpy or something. It just goes a little bit up, a little bit like this. So ideally we will need just 2 thin coats and that's it. If her nails would be very flat or even ski jump, I will definitely add more right here. So first coat, I will leave a little margin from the cuticle, and with the next one, I will go closer. Apply the base, leave a little margin from the cuticle. Make sure you apply it all over and dip. It's your first time? Yeah, I can tell she's excited. Okay, so now we will clean the leftovers. And to clean the leftovers with a brush, you need to use a very light, fluffy brush. Make sure it should not be like nylon or something, because we can actually damage our enhancement. So you see what happened? We have this margin near the cuticle. I also left a little margin right here on the sides, and that was on purpose, because if we will do it with 2 coats, we will get a pretty bulky application all over. Well, once again, it depends on the nail, but with this one, we mostly wanted to add it in the middle. Okay, that's it. Now we are going to repeat the process, but this time we will apply base coat closer to the cuticle and to the sidewalls, but not too close, okay? So you do not want to apply it all the way up here. If you have some uneven surface imperfections at this moment, do not worry. It's not a problem, we can fix it. And now apply a little closer, but not like on the cuticle. A little closer to the sides and a little closer to the other side as well. And dip. And we don't really need to keep it there for long. It's not like when it's curing in the lamp or something, right? It all happens pretty fast. Well, it depends on the product. Some base coats do it faster, some slower, but still it's pretty fast process. Okay, so sometimes with some colors you can apply another coat. I really don't think we need it now, but sometimes, you know, you just see and you're like, well, I probably really need more intense color at the moment. I think we can stop at this point, because I really wanted to show you a pretty thin application. And if you will decide that you need more, you can even add it later. Now, make sure that you clean all the excess powder, and we all are about to be covered in glitter. And then we need to apply activator. Now, this part is a bit different for different systems, because sometimes you need to apply, well, you always need to apply activator, but sometimes you also need to apply base coat. In some systems, you need to apply top coat, and I really always try to, you know, follow the instructions of the brand you're using. And as for, so okay, we applied activator. Now we need to wait about 2 minutes, and we are working only on one nail, so we will wait. But when you're doing all set, usually you just apply it and it will be almost ready on the first one. So now at this point, there are different options depending on the system you're using. You can start buffing it, or for example, gelish dip, they require applying base coat after this one, which makes sense because after application, the surface is a little bit uneven, but it depends on the color. So what I do, like I said, I try to always follow the instructions on the manufacturer, but it also depends. If I see that the surface is pretty smooth, I mean, it's okay, usually I do not use anything. If I see that the surface is really bumpy, it also depends on the color, because within one brand, some powders are just smooth and, you know, the particles are really tiny. Some colors, especially with like glitter, they are more grainy. So in this case, you might want to cover it with something. What activator does, it activates the ingredients inside the product, and then it fully hardens. So if you will not use activator or will not use enough of it, when you will buff, you may notice that the product is a little wet, like it's not fully cured. And you may probably experience it. Sometimes we accidentally do not apply activator like on the sides or miss some spot. And then when you file, you will actually notice it. Which is not a problem because we will apply it again, but it's better to apply it from the first time so you will not waste time on, you know, redoing. And also when you apply activator, make sure you apply enough that the nail actually looks wet, you know, not just slightly touch the surface. It needs actually to saturate into the enhancements. So now we need to slightly buff the surface, and at this point, usually everybody is really, you know, focused on the surface to make it smooth, which, I mean, the surface is already pretty smooth. But honestly, I think what you need to look on is this area, cuticle and sidewalls. Make sure that they're really thin and that you cannot feel any gap between the product and the natural nail. Once you can't feel it, you need to keep filing. So if electric nail file works better for you, you can use it now, but please be careful, be very gentle near the cuticle area, because most problems when products start lifting from the cuticle area, from the sidewalls, they happen because here the product is not thin. So this is how you check it. When you touch it, well, it can be your nail, orange wood stick, anything. You see, so this is the nail, and then we go up. So if you feel something that doesn't let your orange wood stick or your nail to smoothly go up, if you feel like it's a little stuck in the product, you need to file that off. And it works both for the sidewalls and for the cuticle. So that's why if you go too close to the sidewalls when doing the application or even flood them, there's no way you can do this without your client being in pain. So now it's pretty smooth. I would slightly work in this area a little bit. I just want to show you how you can do this with electric nail file. So you can use basically any bead as long as you are sure that you will not touch the skin. So I recommend something that with this shape, or I have another carbide one. So you see it's almost like a needle, but it's not really sharp. And when you work, you need to keep about this angle. You see, so you're filing off only the product. If you will work like this, what will happen, you can easily file off too much and touch the nail as well. So be careful, we're basically only removing the product. I do not really need to do this right now, but I just want to show you how it works. I will turn the speed at about 18,000 rotations per minute, forward mode, and this is how we work. So what I want to do is just slightly file off this part. And I have red abrasive mark, which stands for medium fine, so it's pretty soft. So you see what I'm doing? I'm filing only the product. We're not touching the natural nail here. Let's do it a little bit right here. You probably notice that when you file or when you work, you see some white line here, like the dust line. So as long as you see it, it usually means that you still have, you know, this border. Okay, so now it's perfectly smooth. So now we're like, basically we sealed the nail. Let's take a look from the side. If you're watching us for a while, you may remember that how this nail did look from the side. So we basically did the same, like this was the curve of the nail, and we basically just applied 2 thin coats, and that's it. We did not really change anything. If the nail was flat or ski jump or crooked, we could fix it as well. After buffing, remove all the dust, and you need to apply activator again. Now, when you apply it, do not be greedy. Make sure you apply enough, like the nail actually should look wet, and make sure you apply it all over the surface like this. So it should look wet, and wait for a couple minutes. So now let's seal it with the top coat. So you need to think of this top coat as you think of nail polish top coat that cures in the air. So the faster you apply it, the better. This is the short nail, so it's not going to be hard. But with long nails, honestly, I really, you know, sometimes I struggle, like I really have to pay attention. So it is better to take, you know, like a drop from the jar, apply it, and the brush is pretty big, so just 1, 2, that's it. Okay, so it was a little hard for me because, you know, this habit of applying more and more like we do with the gel top coats is really strong, but with this one you cannot do this. Treat it like a nail polish top coat. Okay, now we need to let cure for like a minute or 2, and then we can apply the second layer. When you do the full sets, it's not a problem, you just apply it on all 10 nails, and that's it. Time to do the second coat. And after first one, as it cures, you can probably see it's shiny, well, and we have the glitter powder right now, but still not as shiny. But when you apply the second coat, so do not apply too much. Ideally 2 thin coats. And once again, 2-3 strokes, not more than that. And that's it. Let dry, and then we can use the cuticle oil, and the enhancement will be finished. Carefully smoothen the cuticle with the oil, and that is it. So if you wanted to get more intense color, then we should probably have used something like this color that she had previously on the nail, before the glitter. But like I said, I really, and all of our clients, they really prefer, this thin application, not bulky, not anything. So that's why most of the time I try to do it something like that. How to avoid lifting in the middle of the nail bed? Well, lifting is really like a big problem. In the middle, usually it happens when something is not right with the structure. So you need to do a thin application near the cuticle. You need to do it thin near the free edge. And really make sure you do not have any gaps here on the sides. Also, it's important to not make it too thick right here, because if you will, there will be too much pressure right here, so the product will start separating in the center. Also, if you have or your client have old product on the nail and it's lifting, you need to file off all the lifting parts before you do a new one. There are actually many reasons for lifting, and one of the most common is something is wrong with the preparation. For super thin nails, do you suggest gel nails? Yes. For the nails I recently described, like damaged or extremely thin, I would recommend soft gel, like sock-off gel overlay, if they want to do overlay. Yeah, because sock-off gel is way more flexible and it will better work for these nails. For normal nails, that do not have these problems, anything will work. Does dipping take more or less time than traditional acrylic application? And if so, would you adjust the pricing? Well, the thing is, I don't really do acrylic overlay, and I believe it's not really popular. So when you do acrylic extensions, yes, it's acrylic extensions longer because you need to glue tip or you need to use form. But if you will comparing, let's say, dip tip and deep overlay or acrylic overlay, I think dip will be faster. So I would charge less for dip systems because it's really faster and it requires less skill, because acrylic is much more complicated. It is better to dip natural nails or just as good as tips? I want to try it with tips. FYI, I'm not a nail tech. Yes, if you want to do extensions, you need to use tips. Can you use this system over gel and acrylic product which is left on the nail? Oh yes, absolutely. We just did that. There was some gel left over, and you can absolutely do this with any product as long as it is not lifting. I pour mine over, so none of that too. Yes, actually there is another technique when you have the jar right here, and then you can use a spoon or a tip and apply it on top. And that's another technique that I usually use this with light cured systems. I actually think it works better because when you dip the base that is not that cured yet, it will not really, the powder will not be there evenly. Do you do feet? Well, I personally do not do pedicures, so I do not, but my opinion is that dip system is not really for feet, because it's a very hard overlay. Well, maybe if you're lucky enough to live in a hot country when you do not really wear any closed shoes, only open toes, maybe that's fine. But for closed shoes, the dips as well as acrylic is not good for your feet because it's too hard. And in a closed shoes, there's moisture. We can, have a little damage in our nail, and it will be locked always with this hard product. But that's what I'm sharing. This is only what I learned from our pedicure educators. Like I said, I do not have really my own opinion because I do only hand nails. Can we make nail with gel and deep powder? Well, if you're talking about like we do hard gel extensions and then we do powder and deep overlay on top, then yes, you can, but I'm not sure if it will make sense. And if you're thinking about actually mixing them, you'd better use light cured system like NSI Simplicity. They have gel-based base coat and top coat for this system. But you can use like mix the system if you're talking about like have these extensions and then this on top. Absolutely. When doing the dip with dark colors, it always looks cloudy. How do I fix that? Does actual application or the top coat looks cloudy? If you're talking about the cloudiness like uneven, so one part has more color and one not enough, any dark colors are more complicated to work on. So when you apply base coat, it is very important to apply it thin. If you will apply thicker, then just picture this. So you apply it thicker than you're supposed to, and when you do this deep motion, wherever you use the 45-degree method in the jar, or you apply powder on the top, it doesn't matter. It still can move this base coat a little bit, and it will absorb on this part more and on another part less. I hope it does make sense. So it's very important to apply thin and to apply an even layer. Also, I noticed some nail technicians apply it like this. So they put the brush and they're like, you know, do this. Well, maybe that's exaggerating, but that's what they do. So what happens, they have more product on the free edge. And once they dip, there is this thick part on the free edge happening. So you need to make sure that it's perfectly even, that you dip it, you know, without pushing, and that's it. If you're talking about the cloudiness in the top coat, but top coat application also has to be a little different from what we do like with gel top coats. You need to apply it ideally with 2 or 3 strokes, especially the first coat, let it cure, and then apply the second one. Most texts here charge more for dipping because it's more expensive for the products here. Thank you. That's actually, yeah, I would actually like to learn that. How much do you guys charge for this service compared to acrylic? Well, to tell you the truth, in Russia, where I live, this service is not popular at all. There are some nail techs, however, that do offer these services, but it's not as popular as, you know, gel overlays. That's why, you know, there's not much products here, and actually I had trouble finding the base coat because, you know, just not many companies import the dip system. The dark colors seem to have a white granule in them that makes them look cloudy, almost like little bubbles. I see. So I also heard this tip from some brands. They specifically tell you that before applying, you need to shake the powder a little bit, like to fluff it up. And yeah, I actually had that as well when I used the dark brown color. So I figured out that it is better to really you know, try harder and to apply it so you will not need to buff a lot. Because as you start buffing, more and more these white bubbles come out, and you know, the application just doesn't look as good anymore. But yeah, I think I know what you're saying. I had this problem with some colors. It's almost impossible to do it this way, and sometimes it's just colors within one brand. Some colors are okay, some are not. Why do you need Activate the second time? Yeah, that's actually a great question, and chemically I'm still researching this subject, but the thing is, when we were buffing, well, ideally you just slightly buff only the surface. But sometimes when you want to fix some imperfections, you buff more. So by buffing, we get into deeper layers of the product. So by activating, you're like ensure that the full product, that the full surface is fully activated, i.e. hardened. Actually, this step is also, like I said, sometimes some brands recommend after Activator to use top coat, let it cure, and only after that to buff it. But they always recommend to use Activator before the last step, before the top coat. Do you have an opinion of the Cuchillo and Chiara Sky Dip systems? Well, I noticed that Cuchillo is actually pretty high rated. I haven't tried by myself. And as for Chiara, yes, I do like this. They have great colors. I think the price is it's like medium, but it's pretty affordable. And by the way, if you would like to have the whole comparison of the different brands, all you have to do is just to stay with us for a while, and you will get this link with a full comparison from the different brands. Can I use UV top coat? That's a great question, and unfortunately you cannot. I honestly tried it with the different UV top coats, including this one, my favorite by Supernail Supervisor. It's not like, actually I can show you. So here I used it like 3 coats, I believe. So you see it still looks a little grainy. I mean, it does shine, but it doesn't do the same. It doesn't actually seal the surface. So I cannot speak for all brands. Maybe you will be able to find one that will work, but these top coats they use for the dip systems, they're a little different from the regular air cure top coats. Have you tried the gel base coat method instead of traditional glue and activator? Young nails recommend gel base, then dip, then cure and repeat. Yes, I actually did for example, Anastasia Simplicity, they have their base is gel based, and also in Russia this method is very popular. We call it gel plus powder. So we use base coat for gel, and then we apply powder, which can actually be acrylic powder, doesn't have to be dip powder. And yes, it does work great. You get this hard surface. The only thing is you need to use the color that's really intense enough. On the UV top coat, I have used the dip coat after it dries. I would add a UV top coat as a better shine. Yeah, actually a shine with dip systems, I have this problem, had and still have a little for a while, because sometimes you apply even 2 coats and it's still not as shiny. So yeah, I think what you're saying, Keith, is that you use like UV on top. And yeah, sometimes I do feel like it, really, like I just see it's not shining enough. I really want more shine. So what I notice is that if you use a very light buffer, if you really buff it to a high shine, that it also helps. But yeah, sometimes honestly I use the 3rd coat because I just want it to shine better. Or you can use, yeah, UV top coats. They have this light like blue color in it, so it really enhances colors like white. It makes it colder, which makes it look better. I love playing with dip powders. There are so many techniques to use. Yes, you can actually do a multicolor ombre. You can use, and when I started working with dip, I realized that there are so many ideas I used just with regular acrylic powders or with color pigments, with dry pigments. And then I realized that I can do all the same with dip powders because they're powders and they have colors.